Hi, my name is Kathryn, and I want to welcome you all to our Quarantine Quiet Time series, Women's Edition. Woo woo. So, as you guys probably know, my husband Dustin and I are brand new here to Santa Clarita. We've been here for about 2 months. And so I wanted to kind of have you guys into our home, so to speak, because we can't have you into our home in person. Wanted to invite you to our home virtually. And I'm really excited about just this Bible study and the series that we're doing on encounters with Jesus, because really everyone that had an encounter with Jesus left transformed and changed. And I believe it didn't just impact them, it impacted Jesus, it inspired God and the disciples. And we just see how, even now in this quarantine, I see how important human interaction is. And that so it's just so fitting that we can take this time to look at Jesus's interactions with people. So we're going to look today at Luke chapter 7, and we're going to read verses 36 through 50. The title of this little story is called Jesus Anointed by a Sinful Woman, it's kind of interesting that is even the title, because Jesus never calls her a sinful woman. But let's go ahead and start in verse 36. So it says, "When one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to have dinner with him, he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. A woman in that town who lived a sinful life learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house. So she came there with an alabaster jar of perfume. As she stood behind him at his feet weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears." That's a lot of tears. "Then she wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and poured perfume on them. When the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, 'If this man were a prophet, he would know who is touching him and what kind of a woman she is, that she's a sinner.' Jesus answered him, 'Simon, I have something to tell you.' 'Tell me, teacher,' he said. 'Two people owed money to a certain moneylender. One owed him 500 denarii and the other 50. Neither of them had the money to pay him back, so he forgave the debts of them both. Now which of them will love him more?' Simon replied, 'I suppose the one who had the bigger debt forgiven.' 'You have judged correctly,' Jesus said. Then he turned toward the woman and said to Simon, 'Do you see this woman? I came into your house. You did not give me any water for my feet, but she has wet my feet with her very tears and wiped them with her own hair. You did not give me a kiss, but this woman, from the time I entered, has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not put oil on my head, but she has poured perfume on my feet. Therefore I tell you, her many sins have been forgiven, as her great love has shown. But whoever has been forgiven little loves little.' Then Jesus said to her, 'Your sins are forgiven.' The other guests began to say among themselves, 'Who is this that even forgives sins?' Jesus said to the woman, 'Your faith has saved you. Go in peace.'" So this is a pretty striking interaction. And the first thing I want to highlight is what Jesus saw in this woman. Now we see what Simon, the Pharisee, saw. He saw a sinner. That's all he saw, was that this woman was sinful and she shouldn't be near Jesus. And now Jesus very well could have said the same thing, right? He knew what was in her heart, knew what was in her mind, knew what was in her past, her present, and yet what he saw in her was her humanity. He saw the woman, and he even pointed that out to Simon, this Pharisee. He says, "Do you see this woman?" And then he highlights what her contrition, what her humility, and what her gratitude had led her to do. And I even think one reason that Jesus saw the woman was because her actions in and of themselves were almost prophetic. It says that she came up behind him, taking a really humble position, almost anonymous, right? Because Jesus didn't look at her and see her face. So she came to him anonymously on her knees and is weeping. Now, when I think of weeping, I think of ugly crying, tears streaming down my face, snot, drool, tears abundantly flowing. And that is what is wetting Jesus's dirty, soil-ridden feet from the streets that he was roaming in his ministry. And now for Jesus, this probably was a bit of a shameful interaction. I mean, if I knew that someone was coming to clean the dirtiest parts of me with their own tears, what an intimate act. And so she's cleaning this dirty part of Jesus with her own self, wiping the dirt away with her own hair, taking on his dirtiness. And then she bows down to kiss his feet. Again, kissing, intimately acting with this dirty part of him. And then she replaces what was once dirty and ugly with perfume. And isn't that just what Jesus does with us? He comes to the most shameful parts of us, not needing recognition, coming in total humility, and he takes on our dirtiness. He's brokenhearted about our own dirtiness and cleanses it. He kisses it. He wants us to feel his love. And then he replaces that dirtiness with the perfume and the aromatic goodness of his spirit, of his grace, of his mercy, and of his forgiveness. Isn't that powerful? And I think that's why Jesus was, honestly, he probably was shocked and maybe even taken aback a bit at this woman's offering, because it was a bit prophetic of what he would do for us. And we also see just that she was aware of her great debt being forgiven. We see that contrast, what Jesus says, that this woman is forgiven because, as we have seen, her abundant love has shown. But then with Simon, whoever's been forgiven little loves little. And so Simon was not aware of his debt. I don't believe that his sin was any less, because let's face it, one sin, we've all sinned and fall short of the glory of God. But where Simon got off track was when he lost awareness of his debt. And so practically, what does this mean for us is that I don't ever want to lose sight of my debt. And not just like I'm punishing myself and, beating myself up for my debt, but no, I don't ever want to lose sight of my debt, because that great debt has been forgiven. And that great forgiveness produces a great love and a great humility in my heart and in my life. And so I want to just put this out there as a challenge for all of us as women, and I guess brothers, if you're watching this too. Let's spend some time on our knees in prayer, getting in that humble posture. With our faces bowed, it brings me to a place of humble gratitude before God. And then I think that carries over into our home life, right? I know a lot of us as women kind of set the tone for the home. What better fragrance to fill our home than the fragrance of a humble and grateful heart that's been moved by forgiveness and grace? And let's also share about that abundant grace and forgiveness with those in our home. Call someone up and just talk to them about God's goodness in our life, because we see that this one woman, her act of humility and gratitude, it affected many people. After this, Jesus then goes and washes his disciples' feet. And I wholeheartedly believe that he was thinking of this woman as he did that, and just what an intimate portrayal of love. And that we know that Jesus then tells his disciples, go and do likewise. So he modeled it, but he also had it done for him. And so let's love people in this kind of a humble and grateful way. So I hope this has been helpful for you. I certainly have just been moved, because I know that I'm a sinful woman, and yet Jesus doesn't see that in me, but he sees my heart, and he sees that in you too. He sees your heart. He sees you, and he loves you. He kisses you. He replaces your broken and dirtiness with, he takes it on, but then he replaces it with the perfume of his Spirit. So I love you guys, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.